It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 133. Colony in Space!
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS would be free of the force field now.
Well, the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, you see.
Resulting reaction is Friday. I'm ready.
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast after several nicks on the bedpost for every day you've missed us. We are back here to talk about colonies and space and primitives. And hey, it's a 70s Doctor Who story about colonialism. Yep, check that box off your scorecard, friends. Yeah, Dan, how are you?
Eric, I'm good. You didn't introduce yourself.
No,
so now
I think
confused.
people know at this
No
point,
one knows
right?
who's talking right now. Everyone's very confused.
It's the old
Eric,
Doctor Who show stars Dan and Eric. You figure out which one of us is which.
Cavalcade of Scars.
The scars on our arms are for love. What's happening, Dan?
Are we done with this one now?
Yeah, I mean, we got stuff to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. We have the Sandman to talk about.
That's really what we're here for, folks.
Now,
you thought it was that we were incessant with our off-topic Dune content previously. Well, folks, get ready, because now we got off-topic Sandman content that no one asked for. It's our stealth introduction to our other podcast. So we may have mentioned this before. Eric and I have been looking forward to, with some trepidation, but looking forward to the Netflix premiere of Neil Gaiman's The Sandman. It's been 30-something years in the making for a screen adaptation of a groundbreaking comic book. If you haven't read it already, I highly recommend going and grabbing it. You can buy the hardback editions. You can buy the single issues. But here's the thing. Go and get if you don't care to have the paper edition, get it on a Kindle. It was cheap to get the entire run, all 75 issues, plus more. I think it actually has all the stuff after that came out, like The Dreaming and all this other stuff.
Dan's been working for Bezos.
For like $35, you get the entire thing. When you could buy a slipcover edition for like half of the volumes for $150.
You can get a slipcover for your couch and be in comfort reading it.
Yeah.
I have the absolute editions, which is
do.
the only way to read it. You need the big, oversized, heavy paper. Don't listen to this guy and his Kindle.
If you want to
read
money,
Sandman like an animal and see the brilliant artwork on a tiny little screen, you monsters. Wait, a whole bunch of animations are going off. I think I've won something. Have I won something?
Yeah, you want the I don't know, hot take off.
Hot takes.
Anyway,
yeah, no, I like print. I get it. Dan's right. You want to save money, get the Kindle.
I'm saying I have them all. I have
no
when
judgment.
I first started collecting them, I have them in Mylar bags on acid-free cardboard. They are sitting there. I'm never going to open them. Never going to touch them. But if I feel like I'm reading them,
wait, you have this? Hey. You have the original issues. I have one original issue.
I have from somewhere around in the 40s. I have from the 40s on.
I think they're worth some cash.
Those are probably not worth all that much. But
depends on.
And I went back and got the trades for the first three. Well, for all of them, but I think for the first three, I got just the trades. Anyway,
we're not going to talk about Sandman.
I think no, we are. That's all we're going to talk about is the Sandman.
I say this, Dan. I texted you this, but I didn't get a response. But let's do it. Mm-hmm. We will review a full review of the Sandman.
We will
after we review this Doctor Who story. Colony in Space.
So we gotta get through our vegetables first to get to dessert.
People can who don't care can turn it off. People that don't want it spoiled.
Never speak to us again.
can
If you
turn
don't
it off
care
because it
about
only
it.
came out Friday. We're recording this Sunday. You'll hear it on Wednesday. It's not like we're doing it as soon as it came out, but it's still relatively early, relatively new. So we don't want to spoil anything. So that way, you make the choice. You want to hang around once we get through Doctor Who? Not that it's not a pleasure. It's a complete
But it's
pleasure
not.
to
Not
sit
this
through
one.
six
Is it?
episodes
We'll find out.
when it should have been 4. No, it's a
Three.
great time.
Should have been 2.
But we will talk in depth, and I want to be able to talk and spoil. We're only going to talk about the first episode, right? You only watched the first
That's all
episode.
I've seen
I
as
only
well
watched
so
the
far.
first episode.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hold anything back. You know, we'll talk about differences between the original text and the and the and we can
changes
say
that
what
were
we
made
like.
for this.
Dan and I, neither Dan nor I, neither Dan nor he, neither Dan
Nor
nor
I.
I know what
Nor-
the other person thought of it.
Nor he.
Interesting,
Yeah.
right?
This is. I mean, it's gonna be fascinating.
We're gonna see what happens.
This is, guys.
But first, we're gonna.
Hold on
Unless
to
you have
your
anything
socks.
else, do you have anything else to talk about? We got
I
Dune
wanna
2 is in
get-
production.
I want to get through this colony in
We
space
got-
to get to the good stuff. Which tells you how I felt, I guess, about this story. But
Hey, we got Russell T Davies is the new showrunner. Will be the new showrunner on
new
Doctor
old
Who,
showrunner.
and maybe this
The
is
old new
old
show.
news for people. I didn't realize
we
that
talked
Neil Patrick Harris is in Doctor Who, going to be in the new Doctor Who.
No.
He will. I saw him talk about it.
Just kidding.
Oh, okay.
no.
Like, he won't say what his role is. Because I guess they worked together on that show you liked that was named after the Pet Shop
Doogie
Boys
Howser.
song. No, what's the Pet Shop Boys song
West-
that I'm
West End
blanking on?
Girls?
It's a Sin.
West End Girls?
No, it's a Sin. The Russell T.
Oh, yeah, that
Davies
was
song
a
you
good
told
show.
me was great, or show you told me
That
was
was
great.
good. I like that. Yeah.
Wasn't Leo
Was
Patrick
NPH in
Harris?
that?
Had I been referring to him as Doogie Howser, or did you do that?
No, I did that. I mean, he did that to himself, to be honest. But
he was in it. Whether I think It's a Sin is a UK and a US show, or was it only in the UK?
I only watched it here.
Was
so
Neil
I'm gonna-
Patrick Harris in it?
It's a
Yes or
it's
no?
It's a fair question. I don't recall him being in that.
Okay. This is also possible. I blacked out this whole thing and made it up because I was
Yeah, you
eating.
made that up.
I had some edibles the other night, and I was reading old Doctor Strange. My favorite. I've told about this hobby that I do occasionally,
Oh, no,
where
he
I will
was in
take
it.
something and then I will read an old issue of Doctor Strange, the Steve Englehart run, and listen to music of the era, and it was wonderful. I was listening to The Goblin, not the graphic novel that I wrote with art by Will Perkins. It's available now, but the band Goblin that did a lot, and it was wonderful. So it's possible I entered some kind of portal, and something happened with Dormammu, and I made up the fact that Neil Patrick
Nope.
Harris was in It's a
Nope.
Sin.
Nope.
I was correct?
wrong. He's in one episode. I forgot who he was.
Fantastic.
He plays an older gay gentleman who gives one of the main characters a chance at a job career thing. Anyway,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
he was good in it. I
Anyway,
forgot that
so
he was
he's
minor
going to
character.
be in Doctor Who. Nobody knows the role. It seems like it's going to be a villain and maybe a larger part. I realize this because I saw a clip from him on The
boy.
View.
Uh-huh.
And
Which you're
Whoopi
obviously
Goldberg
watching
is a
all-
huge Doctor Who fan, so she's asking all these Doctor Who questions, trying to get him
Yeah.
to spill the beans. And I guess they were worried it was going to leak, so they've officially come out,
Embargoed?
Russell T Davies and Neil Patrick Harris, that he is going to be in it in a,
I mean, what do
in a
we think?
substantial way. So I don't know
we
if he's a
think-
new master.
Oh God, I hope not. Please, no more Master.
Yeah.
Can we just
Oh,
be
yeah.
done? I
That's
mean,
a
we have Master to talk about now,
right. That's
but-
a foreshadowing of our review. No more masters.
Sure.
But yes,
No more
let's.
Master.
I don't know.
But
Do
I
we
mean,
have anything
in
else?
the new Who, they've come back to the Master so many times. Like Missy was such a good take on the Master because even at the beginning,
Yes.
you didn't really it wasn't clear that she was an incarnation of the Master, and then the reveal, and then she had a whole arc where she kind of did the right thing at the end, but then they reset it all again whenever she regenerates into the other. It's just enough with that. It's the same thing as
I
like
thought
going back
Missy
to the
was a
well with
great
the
Master.
Daleks all the
Are we
time.
talking about
and
that?
Missy was fantastic. I love that actress. She's fantastic. But yeah, I really hope that he's not. I hope that Neil Patrick Harris is playing a
Something
villain
new?
from the original. Well, no, I would actually love it to be someone from the original series that they're bringing back in a bigger way or something. That
Like
could be
the
really
Ronnie
interesting.
has regenerated
Wouldn't that be
into
interesting?
Neil Patrick Harris.
Absolutely. Into Doogie Howser.
Into Doogie Howser.
It would be really, really cool. But I'm excited to see what it is. Anyway, controversial take. I know that classic fans really didn't like it so much, but I loved the Russell T Davies era. I like the Moffat era. They were great. So I'm looking forward to seeing whatever comes.
Whatever. The important thing is you can't beat old Doctor Strange. Love it.
That's what
love
we're
it.
trying to get at.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, let's jump into the button pushing. I don't think we have anything else, right? Paper Girls is very good. I love the comic. So I've read, bought that when it came out, read the whole thing. And the show is on Amazon. And they've changed a good deal, or it's been so long since I read it, I'm like, I don't remember that happening. But it all works. I think it's good. We're about halfway through it, me and the family.
Okay.
But I would recommend that. Dan, you did
It
not
looked like a
read
good
the
one.
comic, but I think you
I did
can...
not.
The problem with that show, and it's not the problem with the show, it's like an unfair thing, is it's kids, they're from the 80s, they're
It's
on
Stranger
bicycles
Things
that
light.
people are like, Stranger Things, and the comic came out a year before Stranger Things premiered. But I don't think people realize that. And it's nothing, the two, other than those 80s connections to the characters, they're totally different shows in all ways, and comics, and whatever.
Right. I mean,
It doesn't
I
matter.
wonder how much of that, because it's the internet and people having horrible takes, I wonder how much of that is like, oh, it's Stranger Things, but with girls. So it's just like a misogyny
Yes,
thing going
but I
on,
think
which
like the
bothers me.
internet, there's a deafening sound of people like myself going, like talking about how it's not the thing. Do you ever notice that? Like when there's a problem and you don't hear about the problem, you just hear about people complaining about the problem so much more than you actually hear about the thing. And you're like, you just want to sound smart that you knew something. Right?
Yeah.
That's fine. Everything's fine. Dan, hit the button.
All right,
Let's
Eric.
just
let's
get out of here,
do
unless
this.
I can think of something else really cool. Umbrella
I had the
Academy
button out.
season
I was
3.
ready to
Okay,
What?
no, I was throwing out Umbrella Academy season 3.
Oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it. I liked the first season. The second season got a little, and now I'm not sure.
Let's talk about Riverdale. I think that's always a fun. It's a fun guilty pleasure, but I don't believe in guilty pleasures. It's all pleasure.
It's just a
baby.
pleasure. Just
It's
a pleasure,
just
baby.
pleasure. Hit the button.
Just
Dan.
like Colony in Space. This is all. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Let's do this. Let's get through it. Here we
do
go.
it.
I'm hoping that you do.
Reservation Dogs season 2 is out now, and season 1 was amazing.
such a good
So I'm
show.
looking forward to season 2. Too much TV, right? Too much TV.
Look at all those planetary systems, Doctor. We could rule them all.
What for? What is the point?
The point is that one must rule or serve. That's a basic law of life. Why do you hesitate, Doctor? Surely it's not loyalty to the Time Lords who exiled you on one insignificant planet?
You'll never understand, will you? I want to see the universe, not rule it.
What is this? Oh, this is Colony in Space, Dan. It's the 4th serial from the 8th season, lucky number 8. This is the show Doctor Who that came out in 1971, written by Malcolm Hulke, or Hulke. Never figured that out. Didn't put the energy
I don't
into
want to
finding
know,
out.
frankly.
We'll call him Hulk, like the big green guy. This is directed by Michael Ian Bryan. The Doctor, stuck on Earth, can't fix his TARDIS, manages to get the doors open and do a little tour, shows Joe the ropes, and before they know it, they're being transported without their agency at all. Someone has taken over the TARDIS almost, and they've ended up on a human colony on Xerius, the world of Xerius, where there's a colony versus a mineral company locked in a struggle of human bureaucracy. Who will own the planet? Who will strip it of its mines? Why are those people called the Primitives? And who is that little weird fella that you have in your closet. That reminded me of the Kids in the Hall sketch where you had the demon. Remember, I think it's what's his face? Dave Foley. It's Dave Foley's apartment, right? And the demon is in the wall. Remember, like he gets the apartment and he's showing up the apartment like, oh, this one comes with a demon. And it opens, and it's, if you saw it, you would know it.
Remember this one
the
at
demon
all.
is played by Kevin. So it's like a Kevin and Dave sketch, I think. I'm pretty, and it's very funny. So, on that note, other things happen. It doesn't matter. Colonialism, environmentalism, it's got it all. Dan, what did you think of the colony in space?
It was a good 3-part story stretched into 6 parts. That's generally it. No, I mean, okay. It's good in that we get some interesting things happening. We get this doctor finally getting to get off of Earth. Mm-hmm. We get to see some Time Lords again.
That's right.
Of course, they're using him to send him off to against his will to fix something for them because that's what they do. Joe gets to see the inside of the TARDIS, so we get a lovely "it's bigger on the inside" moment, which is always a fun thing.
Always good.
She gets her first travel through time and space. That was great. Landed on a planet that is mostly a rock quarry because, of course, it is. It's always rock quarries. Some of the creature design was fine. The colonists, the acting was good. I liked the kind of setup between the mining federation and planning to strip mine the planet and playing fast and loose with the laws. We got that primitive race, which was actually like a very, very highly evolved race. At one point.
Excuse me, highly evolved race.
Oh, yep. And then we got the Master. We got the Master coming in, doing his mastery things. They have actually a really nice moment, the two of them. I do like Pertwee and Delgado together. I think that's a fun combination. So towards the end of the story, they had a little more to do together, which I kind of liked. But overall, it was just... I liked the first couple of episodes, then it just really stretched forever, and then it was fine at the end to kind of, close it off. It was just... I don't know. I didn't love it. It's... Eric, what did you think? I'm at a loss for words.
All right, okay. I loved it.
Get the hell out of here.
I loved it.
Okay.
I thought it was so good. First 4 episodes.
Okay.
I thought that was great. I thought it was really well written. I thought all of the acting was good. The story was really interesting. I was like making a note for myself. I'm like, I actually think I like most of Malcolm Hulk's stories, so I gotta pay more attention to what he's doing. And then it hits like, I think it's in episode 4 when the Adjudicator arrives, which is the Master. Yeah. Once that beat happens, for me, it just completely falls apart. It just becomes like they've already done all of this stuff, and it's not terrible. Like it doesn't completely kill the story for me because I think all of the ideas are really cool. Even the stuff with when they go into the secret city and stuff. But when that becomes the main plot thread, those last 2 episodes, and it's the Master who has no business being in the story. There's no reason for it. I like the chemistry, like you like the chemistry, but it's like put him in a Master story that makes sense for the Master. Like he's just sort of tacked onto the story to pad it out.
It was the Doomsday device,
and like the whole thing with the Doomsday device and the civilization, it's advanced civilization, but they create a weapon that's super powerful, and then somehow they sort of yada 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 over how that it goes from that to these slee stacks that are telepathic.
Right,
walking around while these like Island of Dr. Moreau type mini creatures are like wandering around or something. I don't know. And then the one guy, he's just hanging out behind the painting all day until he opens. And then they have this sort of thing where they're sacrificing you to something. We never really. I thought at one point we were going to go in there.
It's like a furnace or something, right?
Whatever. And then he's like.
Reactor.
He lets them go first, and then he's like to the doctor, "You come back, I'm gonna kill you." And the doctor comes back, and he kills himself,
right? And
all his people. It was a weird that whole suicide thing. A lot of suicide in this, double suicide. You get the suicide of the primitives, whatever, and those guys sort of look like Uatu the Watcher. I kept thinking of
Oh.
like maybe that's
Yeah, a
just
little
too many Marvel comics going through
It's a
me.
lot of Marvel.
But so then the main guy, the
Ash.
dad, he kills
Ash,
himself.
yeah. Sacrifices
He
himself
sacrifices
just to-
himself.
yeah, as a mystery.
Ash, yes. And then the radiation just goes away when the place is leaking radiation like old gas station where they can't. You see abandoned gas stations in your neighborhood. You're like, why can't they build anything there? And you're like, because they've ruined the earth. It's like that, but somehow they blow it up, and all of a sudden the crops are going to grow. I don't know if that checks out. But it was fine. I just really wish that it ended. Like, they cut all the Master stuff out, and they made it 4 parts. You said 3 parts, but I think 4 parts would have been perfect. Because even when it does, like, you know, the back and forth stuff, for me, it was always interesting. Like, the characters had some depth. Like, you had the mineral guy who, you know, he was, like, compassionate. He had some good qualities about him, but he wasn't 100% good. Like, he still was a monster in his own way.
Oh,
he's still a part
Caldwell?
tricking these people. Yeah, the guy with the mustache.
Yeah. Mhm.
But all of it, take all of it, and it's still worth it because one of those guys looked like Bob Odenkirk, dressed up as a teen in No Teens Allowed. You know that Mr. Show sketch?
I do know that
There's a guy who gets killed. His brother and sister are killed early on. The colonists, and then do you remember him? And he's got like the worst beard and wig.
I don't
and he
remember that
looks
specifically,
exactly
like that he looked like that.
He
but
just,
okay.
I instantly thought of it was played by Bob Odenkirk
No adults
from
allowed.
No Adults Allowed. I like the mining, like the colonizing thing, and maybe that's from being a huge Aliens fan, and like all of that, and like trying to colonize these things. And the colonists are all broke; they all have problems because that's exactly who would be attracted to colonizing a world is someone that has nothing. And I liked all the stuff about how corrupt the government was and the mineral rights and the bureaucracy and all of that stuff was very smart commentary, I felt like. It was all good. It just was too long. It was like they took something really good and they added too many things to it and they broke it.
Right. Yeah, if they hadn't put the Master in this and kept it to 4 parts, and it was just the first time that the Doctor and Joe get to go explore another planet, and they get to interrupt the colonists and the miners, and even keep the alien race there, and whatever, it would have been a better story. It would have been faster. I agree that when you bring the Master in, it's like, okay, it kind of ruined the momentum maybe a little bit.
Yeah, and you
was.
had like this great interplay with the two colonist leaders. Like there's the main leader who's let's do it legally, let's do it all by the books, we're fighting in the streets, but we got to keep it above board. And then you have like the more action driven radical that wants to, you got to burn it all down for anyone to pay attention to us. And that dynamic you see all over the place, and that was interesting to see here. And then once the Master was in and the Judicator, that all just sort of fell apart. Like their role sort of diminished, and there was really no more tension. And then all of a sudden, the guy kills himself, and the other guy escapes, and then he lets all the people out the back door. That part was like, okay, come on.
Yeah,
it was fine. And like even like the girl, like the daughter, was great. She did great, like facial expressions. Ash's daughter, I was a fan of her acting style. She was really liking the role. All that stuff was cool. It was all cool. You know what? I'm stupid, and so you're going to tell me how I'm stupid.
Okay.
The old guy that's working with his best friend, the Sleestack.
Yep.
And he's like, he always knows what wrench to pick.
Yes.
When the Doctor's fixing the thing he's always working on, he says like it's almost like he's making it not work.
Yeah, it's almost as though
was he talking about the old guy that got killed, or was that because the other guy that was like pretending to be a colonist but was really working with the mining company had broken?
Right.
Or was he saying the old guy was?
It would have to have been.
He says the name, and then
was...
at that point I was like, "Who is who?" And then I just...
I don't remember if he said the name, but I do remember that apart because it struck me as well. It's like, well, that guy really wasn't trying to sabotage it. He was trying to keep it all together, and it was successful for however long they were there, for that year that they were there. So it must have been a reference, I would guess, to the saboteur instead. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with the telepathic aliens was an interesting kind of thing going on.
It didn't ever pay off, though.
No.
No. It was like those telepathic. It wasn't like they would run into Joe and then not try to kill her. Like they run into Joe and then they take her in and she's about to get killed.
Right.
The creepy, Dr. Moreau character does read the mind of the doctor and is kind of a dick. He's like, you are more advanced, not like this garbage creature next to you, but I'll let you both go. So it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But go on.
No, you're right. The telepathy really didn't pay off. It was, if anything, it muddied the waters in some ways. Like, they should have known more about people's motivations then. And if they can tell, like, what screwdriver you need, like, they should have known more what was going on. To your point, they probably shouldn't have tried killing Joe, or they would have known more about the colonists and how to whatever they were trying to do. There was some, like, these colonists had a relationship that was basically bartering, like, their protection and helping them out to some extent.
Yeah, they buy them off for
trade
food,
for
which they don't
food.
have. And that was interesting.
Right.
That was just an interesting concept because you're hurting yourself by giving away your food. Your own people are starving, but he's so idealized in how he's going to do this that it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out, and it's not working out.
Right.
I thought that was because a lot of times I was siding with the other guy. I'm like, this guy is not good at what he's doing. Things keep falling apart, and even the doctor and Joe sometimes they're like, oh, you can't do this, but it's like you have to do that. Everyone's dying. Oh, Dan. I don't know.
Oh, Eric, it's fine. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, are there things that we want to go through
radiation?
to make sure that we
talk about the radiation? So the radiation mutates them, not unlike the spice melange. But why is some of them... Why does only the one can talk? That they keep in the retractable.
So you have like
TV
the Slee
cabinet.
Stacks, then you have the priest, and then you have the mini priest who is the leader.
And they sort of say it like, okay, well, it's a very advanced civilization, therefore I'm thinking they're all advanced, right? There's not a lower class and higher. Maybe there is. Then they invent this weapon. I don't know why. Is it two warring factions, the way Genesis and the Daleks kind of thing, or they're just making a weapon for whatever reason.
For fun.
Then they say that it turns into a religion at one point.
Somehow.
Like the technology, they start worshiping the technology, and that sort of explains the priests. But why did they split the genes where they completely look different? And it's all unclear.
Explained. I don't know. I mean, the fact that they had this doomsday weapon there, good point. Who was it for? Why did they have a weapon? But they had
it never detonated.
It never detonated. They never used
but
it.
It's
but
leaking.
They also knew that it was causing the crops to fail, and it was leaking radioactivity. So all they needed to do was blow it up, and then everything would be fine. So you would think at any point the leader could have just evacuated everyone out of there and remote control blew it up, and then it would have been an issue.
Right, and it's
just
not like it
way to
destroys
end
the planet. Like, they're going to live on there and grow crops. All those people are getting cancer, by the way. It's going to be a sad season when the doctor returns and he's like, I actually don't know what I'm doing. We should have let these people stay here. And by the way, if it's full of stuff for iPhones, the whole place is going to be invaded in a week.
Full of stuff for iPhone. Oh, yeah,
the minerals. It's like the best score for whatever lithium that they'll ever find. And Earth knows about it. It's not like that entire company's there. I'm sure the company sent an email. And with all that money, they're going to
The colonists they did have the rights to it. So if they had a real adjudicator there, they probably would have actually had.
Right, but there wasn't even the real adjudicator was there. It was a fake adjudicator. No. So this whole planet's gone. They're going to strip it.
I mean, I'm hoping to see a part 2 because there's so many unanswered questions
a lot of
in this one.
Questions.
Really want to get to it. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to talk through. I like the first episode was probably the best one. Getting to see the Brigadier and Joe and the Doctor and getting Joe inside the TARDIS, and I think it was
a great moment.
Fun that she said to the Doctor when they first dematerialize and go through space, and she doesn't believe him, and she said all along that she never really believed that he traveled through time.
Yeah,
and
she
space.
just thinks he's crazy.
I mean, she is his companion on Earth and can see what he can do, but didn't think he was actually maybe even an alien, whatever. So that was fun to get to see her do that. One thing that was kind of not fun, but funny, is the dematerialization. If you notice, it doesn't fade
it just
out.
pops.
It just popped in and out. I was reading on the internet, so it must be true, that the director admitted on a commentary track on the DVD release that he just didn't know that it was supposed to do it that way, that it was supposed to fade. So he just made it pop, which I don't think makes any sense because he was a production assistant on the show before he became a director. Did he never see the show before? It was strange.
I was wondering why that played out that way.
Right. So you still get the right sound effect and everything, but for both the Doctor's TARDIS and the Master's TARDIS, they just go pop and they're gone. So that was strange. We got to see a new version of the sonic screwdriver come into play. So we got that coming back into the story. So we're going to start using that more often. I think it was kind of fun to see you got to see the interior of the Master's TARDIS, which just looks like a TARDIS. But it was nice. You got to see him
and
in
you
his
get
element.
the 5-minute scene of them going under the whatever his security system.
That took
a long time
to limbo under. They had to squirm on their backs underneath.
That took
the laser
so
beam.
long,
Only
and yet
for
she
Joe,
forgot about it.
Only for Joe to take a step back right into it and to get choked with gas. It was just so silly. But all right, hey, that's fine. I liked also the mining company's ploy to scare away the colonists with the projections of the giant lizard. The effect looked terrible. I mean, that was just silly. But I like the idea of it, and then they bring in like the robot with giant monster claws on it to try to make it look like the lizard was actually there, ripping things apart. I thought it was a pretty cool idea.
Yes.
But they kind of abandon all of that and kind of go off in a different direction later. I don't know.
I did see some interesting little bit of trivia about this.
Okay.
Morgan, the character of Morgan, which
Yes.
is like the psycho, right?
Oh, yes, I read this.
You already know, like it was originally supposed
I
to
know
be
where
a
you're
woman.
going. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, but the BBC was like, nah, women can't be killers.
Well, what I read was, yes, that was supposed to happen. It was supposed to be a woman, but they
It was
were afraid
inappropriate
that it
for a
wasn't
woman.
inappropriate for families viewing because it might sexualize her too much to be in this position of power, which
Wait,
says
what?
much more about the person who made the decision than it did about the actual story itself. Women with guns, angry women, that's too sexy. So, I don't know. He was fine, though. It was good to see that actor play that role. He was, appropriately smarmy and intimidating. Pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. There's not a
It was
lot
fine.
going on here.
It was fine.
It was fine.
Everything you say, I agree with. I liked how it
there
was paced.
There was
the
too much
early
of
part.
the Venusian Aikido all over the
See,
place.
that's
There's
when I
just
was smiling
so
because,
much
like,
of it.
we had just come off of Patrick Troughton, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is what the Doctor's doing, like, because he spends a lot of time with always with the one finger he's always at the end of whatever judo chop or roll he does. You always see him just put his dumb finger on someone's neck like that's going to knock him out, and he's doing back-to-back kung fu or judo, Venetian judo with humans too. It's like he's like ready to do some kind of action tag team thing.
Yeah.
It was fine. I didn't mind that. That kind of stuff always makes me smile.
I mean,
It
was
did go
okay.
on a long time.
There was so much of it, though. It happened
Yes.
a lot. They had the slowest car chase, or long. It wasn't slow. It was just long and uneventful car chase. Oh, hang on a second. Another fighting scene that did involve the Doctor was one of the colonists towards the end. One of the colonists and one of the mining guys
Mm-hmm.
get into a fight in a clay pit. I'm guessing that it just happened to be there, so they're like, all right, let's just have a mud fight. It was really strange.
Yeah, and that went on
for
too
a
long,
long
too.
time.
Yeah.
It was really odd. I don't
that
know
was
what they
odd.
were
I
trying to do there.
To be fair, to be honest, transparent is the word I'm looking
Do
for.
it.
When that fight started, I hit like the 5-second ahead button a few times on the BritBox, and it was
choice.
still going. It was like, I get the idea. Can we move this along?
Yeah. So that, I mean, whatever.
It was good. I mean, if this had been 4-part, I would have really sung this episode's praises and been like, it's interesting and had cool ideas, but it just dragged. Like, it didn't need to be. It didn't need those last two. We say that a lot, but here I feel like I really
say
mean
that
it.
a lot because it's accurate a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a shame, and I just wonder, like, was this a typical 4-parter, and then they needed to pad the season, and so they added
Right.
the bit. And again, the Master's great, and like they're whenever they're together, it's always interesting to watch. It just didn't add anything to the story.
I think one of our listeners did comment this, so I will preempt it and make it sound like it's my own
Okay.
idea. But no, the moment at the end with the towards the end with the Master and the Doctor, and the Master's explaining his plan, and we have this doomsday device, and we just have to threaten that we'll blow up stars, and the galaxy will fall in line, and you could have a half share on the universe, Doctor. And it almost seems like the Doctor was actually contemplating
Thinking
it
about
for a
it.
second.
Yeah, he took
did.
some time.
Yeah. So I mean, that was kind of fun to see. I don't know.
This story follows the next story we do after this. I looked ahead was the Daemons, which we did. Right, that's back on Earth. But does he get like? He doesn't really have control of the TARDIS. It's like they're hinting at it in this episode that he's going to be able to fly again, but he's not in control. When
Well-
does he actually get full control of the TARDIS again? Right?
You're asking me as though I'd pay attention to the chronology. I think what was interesting here is at the beginning, the Doctor is at unit in the lab, and he's telling Joe that he's built his own replacement dematerialization circuit that can avoid the homing signal or whatever from the Time Lords. But then the Time Lords actually do take control of the TARDIS and send it where it needs to go. So I don't understand really what was happening there. Did he create the circuit and they still overrode it, or would they have
I
done
don't think
that anyway?
Did he install it yet? Maybe it was
Right.
just
I
wasn't
don't-
installed yet. He
It was
needs
just
some
confusing
time.
that the two of those things happened at the same time, or were they waiting? Were the Time Lords sending him from a time when he created the circuit so that the TARDIS was functional, and then they could control him because time?
That's
they
an
could
excellent question.
See those
Dan.
things?
An excellent.
It was
question.
but it was confusing. Why not just be like, oh, the TARDIS started up? That's crazy, and then just whatever. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, he obviously doesn't have control. They said that he would have his freedom to do this mission. So I'm assuming now that he's back on Earth again, moments after they left, that he no longer either has the memory or the capability of controlling the TARDIS anymore. But I guess we'll find out at some point. I do like the Brigadier saying, to empty space, like, Doctor, come back right this instant. And then 3 seconds later, from his point of view, they did come back again. I thought it was kind of cute to have that come in, and the Doctor's like, "Don't try to explain it, Joe. He'll never understand."
It was
It
all
was kinda
fine.
cute. It was fine.
I
That's
don't know,
what we
Dan.
want,
Do you have
a
anything
fine
else on this
story.
thing? Do we did we exhaust a 6-parter that soon?
I
We
mean,
talked
there
about the
just wasn't
Bob
a whole lot to
Odenkirk.
it. That was the most important thing.
That
Yep.
was. I'm glad
a
I
lot
got
of
that. I'm
gunplay.
surprised you did not think of that though.
I did not. There was too much gunplay in this story as well, which kind of bothered me. Just like a lot of shootouts.
There's a lot of shooting.
People just die and left
And
out
it's very
left and
much
right.
like a cowboys and Indians kind of vibe
yeah.
that they were going for, which is how I saw all the guns and things like that.
I mean, there was also a moment with I think it was the cliffhanger from episode 4 into 5 where the Master pulls a gun on Joe and the Doctor, which is just a very, like, I don't know, it's just a strange thing. Like, that's the plan. He's just you're gonna get struck by a stray bullet. And that was his plan to get rid of them. It was just not very mastery. It's practical. It makes a lot more sense than some of the other crap that he comes up with as a plan to get rid of the Doctor. But that was just very kind of ham-handed to me. It didn't really feel appropriate to the character, but it didn't happen anyway. Doesn't matter. I like the more Rube Goldberg contraption sort of plans for the demise of the Doctor. But anyway, so that's all I got to say about that.
All right,
Eric, I think that's it. It's fine.
I'm fine. I'm done.
Eric, I'm fine.
Dan, what about
No.
our listeners? Did anyone
No,
else
I'm fine.
watch this? Did they have a comment about it? Give me something, Dan. What did they think?
Well, Eric, people said stuff. And
People
we
said
listened.
stuff.
Hang on. This is going to be fun for you to edit
No!
around because I
don't want to
can't
do
find...
any editing.
You're going to have to because I can't find
All right, well, while you're doing that,
notifications. There it is.
I'll just let people know that you can go to Amazon, whatever country you're in. You can go to your bookstore. Local bookstores is the best, or local comic shop, and you can say, hey, I listened to this podcast about Doctor Who. It's supposed to be about Doctor Who. These guys are constantly talking about other stuff, and they seem like they want to get through Doctor Who so they can talk about something called Sandman. Do you have any copies of Sandman? And then you can buy it.
One of the idiots said I should buy it online
Look out,
instead.
friends. All right, Dan,
Here
did
it
you find
comes.
something?
Yes. So thank you, everyone, for those of you that replied to us on Twitter. That's on Twitter at TODW Show, asking for your opinions about this story. Let's see what you all had to say. Made it sound like I was ready to go, didn't it? But I'm not.
Yeah, you
Graham
fooled me.
Buxton says that this story is hugely underrated.
Okay.
Dent is a fantastic, smarmy villain. Dent was
Dent
great.
was
The
great.
main
Dent was good.
He actually reminds me of
That hair,
C-Lab
though.
2021. The skipper from C-Lab 2021.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's who he
yes.
looked like to me. Which
100%.
was, but evil instead of just crazy, which was fun. Let's see. We got here. Andy Scott says, I remember reading the book and the description of the life form in the fire and then seeing it on video and being massively underwhelmed. The book is far better, like Day of the Daleks. So let's just take some time now. Eric, let's right now
Just
grab
read
a
the
copy
book.
of the book. We'll read it out
Yeah,
loud
we'll
to
read
each
that
other. We'll
book.
take turns. Nitro 9, hey Nitro 9, it's been a while, says the book is so much better, I can't even watch this one anymore. Well, I can understand not wanting to watch this one. Paul Waring says, I really enjoy it. There's a lot of, quote, who has the upper hand between the colonists and IMC. Dent is brilliant, just ruthless. Go
Just
ahead.
to
Yep.
pause on that.
Jump in.
It does go back and forth with who is in control. Like,
Yeah.
they have them captured. Now they have the guns. Now they have the guns. And I feel like that pendulum swinging is more frequent in those last two episodes because they need something for them to do while we're tinkering around with the Master. But you can go. I agree with that
absolutely.
comment.
Paul
The
says,
mustache game,
Dent-
by the way, is on fire in this.
The mustache game?
Yeah. If you're a
Yeah,
good
you got-
character, you
got
have a
Caldwell.
mustache. Right? All the bad characters
Well-
don't have mustache, except for that one bad character that has a mustache. He's kind of good, too. So, yeah.
He should have had half a mustache. Instead,
Yes,
just
just
so you
half
know
the
that
face.
he's not quite. Yep. Paul goes on to say, Dent is brilliant as a ruthless capitalist and the best thing in it. Yeah, arguably. Great scene where the Master offers to rule the universe with the Doctor, who looks tempted for a minute. See, Paul and I are on the same wavelength there.
Yeah, he
I
did
read
look
that
tempted.
first, but yes,
He
it is
thought
absolutely
about
true.
it.
I totally agree. And it wasn't just a moment. Like, it actually goes a little bit there. He's thinking about. Okay, Mike Morgan says, this is something. This is something from another tweet. Oh no. Okay, so when you see the on the tweet, I have the picture of the alien inside the leader coming out of the box, and Mike Morgan says, "Oh dear, I can see right up his skirt and can't unsee it." So, a little not safe for work badge would have been helpful there. Anyway, moving on. Alan Kingsley says, I love watching Pertwee and Joe, and I always enjoy big, stupid Doctor Who monsters, but I feel like the story has been done better and shorter in other episodes. I would argue that making it shorter makes it better, but no, I agree. It feels very reminiscent of about a half a dozen other stories. Set on an alien planet that's mostly a quarry, and it's about colonialism. Yep, that's the majority of them. So there's that. Thank you. Let's see. We
didn't talk about the Doctor doing that series of magic tricks where he's making coins
Wait,
come out of
it-
the back
He
of the
did
guy's
a bunch
ears.
of sleight of hand magic tricks to a telepathic alien. How does that work?
They forget about
How
the
does-
telepathic part.
I guess maybe that he was just suspending disbelief to be in the moment. Maybe that alien was just like, I'm gonna have a good time here, and didn't read his mind. Anyway, the World Enough in Time podcast says the director, Michael E. Bryant, told me that mid-production he fantasized about driving off a road into a wall so he wouldn't have to finish directing it.
Oh.
Because it was such a tough job.
So
the
they
first Doctor Who
interviewed the
story they
director?
directed. Yeah, it
They
sounds
gotta
like
get
it.
their.
That's,
We got to get their producer. We're not interviewing.
that's pretty
anyone.
great. No, our booking agent is terrible in that they are non-existent. But that's awesome. To want to drive into a wall to not have to finish the story. I kind of get it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I felt that way. I
it's-
texted you. Somehow the 5th episode was the longest one on record. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's got
It
to
was
be
a
over.
3
And I
hour-
looked at the clock, and it was like being in school, and it was halfway done. I was like, God, how did I agree to this?
The second hand is just frozen
Just
on the
frozen.
clock. Frozen. Ian Graham says about the story, it's a bit like The Good Life, people attempting self-sufficiency but on another planet. I'm not familiar with The
I don't
Good
know what
Life,
The Good
but
Life
I will
is.
take... Was that the Paris Hilton...
Yeah. Yep, where they lived on a farm
No,
with
that's a Simple Life.
Lionel
That's a Simple
Richie's
Life. Yes,
daughter.
That's right. I'm thinking of a different show. Fantastic. Mr. Ed says, warning, not to be binge watched, just saying. Unfortunately, I did binge watch it, and
Yeah, I
did
watched them
stay
back
awake
to
the whole
back.
time.
That's tough.
It was not the right choice. I do regret it. Misfit Scully, hello, Scully, says, during the story's run, my brother was born. I suspect I was more excited about Saturday evenings watching BBC One than his arrival. Fair. Love the Master as the adjudicator. Pertwee and Manning are wonderful as always. I have to double second that one. Two things stand out. Joe's first off-world adventure and the IMC robot, which apparently they had envisioned as being humanoid, but instead it looked like a giant, like...
Yeah, it was so big and not practical, and like
No.
those dumb giant hands. Like nobody sees them rolling up with them hands, with the giant
Them
thing.
hands,
Like you would
them
think you're
hands.
looking out the window, you're like, that's weird. That robot has giant dinosaur hands, and that projection of someone's pet iguana.
Pet iguana, yeah, that was super fun. But so they put the hands on the robot so it can claw things up
Yeah.
to make the projection seem real, but no one sees it. So why did the hands have to be like molded and look like they had dinosaur skin on them? They could have just been giant rakes on the ends of their hands, but they
Much
really
more
spent the
exciting.
time to go above and beyond and make them look realistic. Anyway, super fun. Matthew Pittard says, if I need sleep, I watch this one. That's how much I recommend it. Oh, so it's
Okay.
it's good for falling asleep. Thank you for that. Paul Paranoid says, in terms of continuity, this is the first trip in the TARDIS since the Third Doctor's imprisonment on Earth. The Time Lord's taking over control of the ship and forcing him to do a mission. Contrast with a scene at the start of The Brain of Morbius, which might be a callback to this and not Genesis. I can't recall any of those
I
stories,
love
but
The
thank
Brain
you
of
for putting us. Thank you for putting this in context for us. But yes, so it's his first time being able to get off the planet, but he doesn't have control, so kind of bittersweet in that sense. So thank you very much for sending us those tweets. We also got a couple of emails, so let me check out those as well. You can email us if you're not on Twitter and you don't feel like interacting with that Hellscape website. You can just send us an email at theolddoctorwhoshow at gmail.com. You've heard of it. You know about it. Let's read it. I'm not sure we did this one before. I think it kind of came in before our last review. So this is from Jess, who says, hello, Eric and Dan. I'm reading this live. I haven't done
Okay,
this before, so let's see
yes.
what happens. Hello, Eric and Dan. Love the podcast. Can't believe there are only 20 weeks left. An idea to keep the podcast going after that would be to review some of the short stories or audio dramas. I think maybe we did read this one, and I am not going to do either of those things, read the short stories or the audio dramas, but thank you for loving the show and wanting us to keep going, or even just revisit some episodes, see how your perspective has changed. This is just a suggestion, as I'd love to continue listening to you two talk Doctor Who and other random stuff along the way. Looking forward to hearing your reviews about Colony in Space. I personally enjoyed the story and found it interesting that it was the first ever off-world story recorded in color. Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh yes, that is
Oh.
something
Big
we
moment
overlooked.
there. Thank you, Jess, for
Yeah,
pointing
because
that out.
this is season 8, right? I said it was 8, so this is his first season,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
he's stuck on Earth, but they didn't even make it a full season. Like, just put him in
Yeah.
space.
We
Got to get it back in space.
Jess continues, the only big problem I had with the story was the cliffhangers that to me lacked drama. Unsure if that was just me or if you guys noticed that as well. I mean...
No, I can't even remember, like, what are some of the cliffhangers. One of them was the button to kill Joe, like the gas button, the robot clawing him to death. None of the other ones really jumped out as being anything like too dramatic.
Just continues. Other than that, this was a pretty good story. I enjoy Pertwee's performance. Always enjoy a good Pertwee, honestly. Keep up the good work, guys.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
Jess. Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Yep. Let's see. Paul Paranoid says again, 7 years, 133 episodes of the Doctor Who show, and guys, when I started this running gag about how sad I was the podcast was coming to an end, I thought you only had maybe just over half a dozen more episodes to go, but I think some got added, and now it feels like a gym membership that we can never get out of, which is great. That's absolutely true. We are all stuck in this for a few more months, folks. P.S. I love seeing the Master's TARDIS done properly. Yeah, it is great to see the interior of that done, and getting to make it look like something totally different. You got to explain that to the Doctor, explain that to Joe. The TARDIS can look like anything, except my TARDIS. It's always going to look like a falling apart box, but it looked like the big adjudicator ship, which was kind of cool as well. So thank you, Paul, for that. And last, Conrad, Hair of the Hound on Twitter, says, Dear Eric and Dan,
Yes?
as what... yes, listening. As one of your listeners who suggested this extra 6 months of reviews, parentheses, and making it onto Eric's enemies list alongside
who's on my
Ants,
enemies list?
Hair of the Hound for recommending that we continue doing the show
yes.
for another 6 months. So yeah, he says he's on your enemies list alongside ants and air conditioning pipes for making you watch The Dominators.
He's also on my list of people I love. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
Come on,
that.
I got a big old heart frame with Hair of the Hound. Hair of the Hound, if I'm not mistaken, if someone else, I think Hair of the Hound did this, right? And if it's not, it'll be embarrassing. But that's how we got that signed photo of Ace.
Yes, I believe that's
Hair of the Hound. He'll never be on my enemies list.
No. Ants, however, ants will stay on your enemies list.
Yes, damn ants.
The Hound
I saw
goes on
ants.
to say,
it was like a horrifying thing. Ants destroying a moth. It was like if I could have put like machine sounding thing and did it in slow motion, it would feel like a David Lynch short film. It was horrifying. It's horrifying. Ants, giant ants, destroying the moth creature. I don't know. There's no value to that. It was just something I saw.
And now we've all pictured it. Thanks. The Hound goes on to say, I'm not sure how much you'll enjoy Colony in Space. Well, now you know.
I really enjoyed it. That's the thing that bothers me, is if it wasn't 6 parts, the first 2 parts, I was like, this is great. I love this whole thing. I loved everything about it. I thought it was well written. I was enjoying it. And then it just overstayed its welcome. So I don't know. At the end, when you add it all together, it's like, I don't think I'd ever want to watch it again.
No, I will never watch this
it's
again.
depressing because it was so close to being great.
Could have been good. Could have been great. Says that the Colony of Space feels pretty generic, but I'm hoping you enjoyed the next Tom Baker story, which is
Yes. That's what we're doing next. Douglas Adams. Which I've been wanting to see this. And we're watching it. But I feel like, wasn't it missing or it didn't air?
Here we go. Here it is.
Okay.
The Hound says, advanced warning, as production of Shadow was canceled before it was finished, some of it has been reconstructed with animation.
Oh, no.
I know you're only reviewing complete stories, but this is a fun one with a great script by Douglas Adams. I'm looking forward to hearing what you make of this. I've been looking forward to this as well, so it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. We're going to love it.
Does he say how much is recreated?
We're going to find out in 3 weeks.
Is it like a
Eric.
full episode or more than one episode?
There's only 10 minutes of actual footage, and the rest is all stick
It's all
figures.
hand puppets.
Yep, it's all hand puppets. That I would watch. Very Muppet style would be great. So thank you. That was, again, email us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. You can tweet us at TODW Show. We're also on the Instagram there. Same handle. Eric, I think that's everything.
Is that everything?
For the Doctor
Are we
Who's
free?
part of the
We
show.
already talked about what we're doing next. We're going to be doing Shada.
Yep.
Or Shada. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Shada.
I'm sure we'll find out.
Rainy.
Yeah. So I
Ronnie.
guess goodbye
I never pronounced anything
to
right.
people. If you care about the Sandman, the
Or
Netflix
if you
show,
care
the
about
adaptation
us caring about the Sandman.
of the Neil Gaiman comic book
Yep.
with Mike Dringenberg, as well as many other artists. We're doing the first episode, so we've got to give props to Sam Keith. Stay on if you want that. Otherwise, we will see you next time for Shada. The Shada Mapes. I am
It
the
always
housekeeper.
comes back to Dune. Always comes back to it.
Yep.
All right. Goodbye, everyone who doesn't care about the Sandman. Talk to you in 3 weeks.
All right, Dan, they're gone. First off, how excited were you to see the show?
I'm going to. I want very much for Joe, for my boyfriend, to watch this with me, because this comic book is one of the most. It's the best comic book series I've ever read.
Mm-hmm.
I love Neil Gaiman. It has been a part of my life since the early 90s when I first started collecting it. And I've been dreaming about an adaptation for a very long time. So it's just trying to coordinate our schedules so we can sit down and watch it together. That's why it took me so long to watch the first part. I haven't watched the rest. But I will tell you, within the first 10, 15 minutes, I'm being completely honest, I had a tear in my eyes.
Oh,
I was
no.
so
The young
happy.
man in the old body crying.
I was so happy to see this. So far, I think it is beautifully realized. I love the changes they're making to try to tell the story in a different way. What they're doing with the Corinthian is different. I have some questions, and you can remind me, because it's been a while since I've read these parts, and I haven't read the subsequent news stories that came out with Daniel
I didn't read
Morpheus.
them either. The prologue?
So I don't...
Yeah, I haven't read that.
They changed a bit here. So I'm assuming anyone that's listening now, which is literally no one, has either watched the show or read the comics or both. It's interesting that the Corinthian's taking this role, this larger role in the story. He doesn't appear in the first 8 issues. He's part of Doll's House instead. So bringing that forward, it's interesting that that's in connection with Morpheus being captured. The reason in the comic that he was able to be captured was he just finished this epic battle that we don't know anything about. So he was weakened, and that's why he was actually able to be summoned and captured. In this one, it was just he was able to be captured. The grimoire and the magic was able to capture him. I guess maybe able to put more of that in, like, he had so much hubris that he put so much of his power into his tools of office instead of keeping them within himself, which they mentioned in the comics, and maybe that's where they're going to go with that. But it seems strange to me, like, this almost all-powerful being that's existed since almost the first moment of time is able to be captured by someone that he calls an amateur magician, when there's no other reason why he should have been able to. Like I said in the comics, he's in a weakened state and was more susceptible to it. So that was kind of strange to me. That's the only...
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yep.
I didn't like all of the changes. You mentioned the changes that they made.
Yeah.
Obviously, Neil Gaiman...
that's the biggest one.
Neil Gaiman was very involved in this, so I'm assuming...
he said... Can I tell you this? He said this is the most he's been involved in anything that's ever been adapted of his, including including Good Omens, which he was a producer for, which I loved as well. But Good Omens is wonderful.
So
what a great
that
story.
obviously he knows what he's doing more than
He did
I
it for
do.
a reason.
But I liked it more in the comic that the first time you see Dream or Morpheus is on the ground after he's been captured. It's like a more mysterious way, a reveal. I liked that reveal so much more than this show where they bring he's with the Corinthian. First you like get this whole narration thing. That's fine.
Which is fine. Right.
Then you see like...
You get to see Lucien.
But you do see him, I think, when he's talking to the Corinthian. I didn't like any of that. Like in the comic, it makes sense that the Corinthian, while you don't see him until issue 10, you hear about him. Like Dream is captured, and while he's captured, the dreaming is falling apart and things are escaping, and he's basically, after he collects all of his doodads and gets those back, then he goes and he gets all these creatures back, and one of them is Corinthian, but you deal with some other ones first. So like that made sense. Now like how did the Corinthian even get out? And like and he's not in his weakened state, so why was he captured? He was just captured because he was on Earth. And that I didn't think that made a ton of sense.
Right. So maybe because he was actually in the waking world, he was more susceptible to the magic, maybe? I guess.
But then you have to worry about that for the rest of the time that he's in the waking world, like when he's chilling with Death and they're walking around New York. It's fine. I didn't love that. I liked the way it was in the comic more, but that's also me. I have all that baggage. If I didn't know any of that, maybe it wouldn't even have affected me. I thought it was good. Like I liked it. I thought it was great. It's promising. I think like for me, there's a part of me that thinks it should never be made. Like there's something special about reading a story about stories as a piece of literature with words and pictures, and there's something special about finding that in the pages of a book and not gone through freaking the studio machine, and then it sort of it loses something.
Right.
That's like an old
when you're
school.
When you're doing a production like this, no matter how much Gaiman is involved, and apparently seemingly very involved at every step along the way, it is necessarily an art form that involves literally hundreds of people to bring it to life. Or in a comic book, it is maybe,
and there's something magical.
The writer, the penciler, the letterer, the colorist, and something from the someone probably from the publisher, but like a dozen people most. So this is a very different.
But there's something too about that form. And the fact that it exists in a book on your shelf that makes it special and like a doorway to another world versus like a mass-marketed, mass-advertised show. But it's fine. I'm happy
but if it's
for
done
it.
well.
Yeah, if it's done well, it's great.
Get to
it's all fine.
Experience that story as well, or a version. So they get to experience a version of the story. Maybe it's actually a good thing that it is changed so significantly in the show, so that there is still something. It is still its own unique thing.
And the changes are pretty. We talked about the Corinthian changes. The Burgess, who's like the why can't I think of the guy's name? Crowley type character. In this, he has a little bit of more of a motivation for capturing Death. Like his son's dead.
Wasn't that in the book?
In the book, the guy that's the old guy. It's similar to the book. The old guy's going to his house. That old guy's son is dead. Yes, but from what I remember,
is still true in this one.
Burgess is just doing it for more power to live forever.
Power.
He doesn't have that dead son motivation. They have in this one his son killing him, which doesn't happen in the book. In the book, he just dies of old age, and the son killing the Raven. Like Matthew the Raven is a huge character in the comic, but you don't really hear much about the other Raven.
He does mention other Raven in passing.
He mentions that, but that part with the Raven coming to him and all of that stuff, that's all new. And that was fine.
Which I thought was nice. That was it was a pretty cool thing.
It was a good moment.
Introduce that concept to people who haven't read the comic.
Just plus it lets
nice
like,
to see it.
Here's where I worry a little bit.
Okay.
It also makes Morpheus more sympathetic that he gives him endless nightmares for fucking the rest of his life almost.
Yeah.
Because he's killed his raven, so it's like, okay, well, of course he would do that.
Well,
whereas
it wasn't
in
just
the
because
book,
he killed his raven.
right? But in the book, Morpheus is more dangerous. Like, there's a dangerous part of him, and I think that's true of all of the early Sandman. Is it's much more like a horror thing,
Yes,
and that's why, like,
yes.
when we get to, like, I just want to see if they do the same stuff they do in the comic. Like, we said spoilers are open, right?
Yes,
like
spoilers
in the
in the diner?
John D. How 24/7 or 24 hours, right? I think that's the name of it.
24 hours, yeah, story. Yep.
If that's as dark and messed up as it is,
from what I've heard,
yeah,
it is going to be very unsettling.
and more so the when he gets the ride from the woman. That's like one of my favorite issues. To
It's
make
nuts.
sure it plays out, like if it plays out like that and the way that ends, because that like knocks you off because you expect it to go one way, or that he would have like a heart or anything, and then when it goes the way it goes, you're like, oh, it's like a more horror, dangerous. And I feel like Dream still is very cold in this, and so I think they got that, but the Raven bit was like, okay, well, I want them to make sure they keep the unhuman part of all of it.
But there was something I don't disagree with you. I think that's an interesting point. I do like though that they made him a little sympathetic when he realizes that raven is there. I can't remember that raven's name because it's not from the comic. But when that raven is there flying around,
it's like,
and he feels that it's in the house, and he knows that's going to happen. He has a smile on his face, and it's not just like, oh, maybe I can get freed. It was, to me, it read more like his connection to the dreaming is back, or that there's something more to it, or that he actually has some affection, however much he can, for his subjects who are loyal to him. There's just something to that. Like when you see him on the shoals of the dreaming, whenever he escapes and Lucienne comes and finds him, the smile that he gives her as well. Like there is something there that isn't really in the comics. He is much more menacing, unpredictable, cruel, or cold in the story. At the beginning, especially, until he kind of goes where the story goes.
Right.
But that was interesting. The other thing, that this is such a minor thing, it really doesn't matter. And I guess they kind of explain it away in a way. The flashbacks to him being imprisoned and being held at Fawny Rig, that takes place in the same time period as is in the comic. So it's around World War I, in the early 20s. But then in the book, he's released in the mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's being released in current day. So he's been captured for over 100 years. How is that kid alive? He would have been 120 or so. So the only thing I could think is because they did say something along the lines that Burgess and his followers would live longer. So I'm guessing that's all that was going on there, that his disciples got to live longer.
I didn't even
but it just kind of got glossed over. It's like, this doesn't track because... So they also introduce this woman who comes to be, I guess, having a relationship with the Magus. She eventually gives birth to John Dee. So that's John Dee's mother, right?
Yeah, she's in it. She's in the comic too.
Is she?
Yeah,
no, but not in that part of the comics. You don't see her.
I don't know if she's in that part of the comic, but
She's
when you learn about his mom, she's connected to I'll have to open it.
Okay.
But I'm almost 100% sure she is. That's how she gets the sand.
Yeah,
right. She has the ruby.
All of them.
She has the ruby.
And
then the girl. That's another thing. Like, how are they going to do that thing with the girl who's just hooked on the sand, and like her whole place is like a flesh room, and her skin's.
Boy, that was great. Great. That was so great. I forgot it. Oh my god, that's so great. No,
but yeah, I remember her.
She leaves with all three of the implements of his office. So she has the helm, the sand, and the ruby. And I'm assuming that she sells off or whatever. They go wandering and other people find them. But like the timing is weird. Like it's still John Dee would still be way too old to be unless the sand and the ruby keep them young. I guess, whatever. It's fine. It's a minor thing. I didn't remember her being there at the beginning, but you must be right.
Ethel Cripps, the Magus's mistress,
Okay.
steals the treasures and 200,000 pounds in cash.
Yeah, okay. Exact same as the show then.
Right.
But she doesn't have those scenes, which is, I guess, is what I'm not.
Like, you get this
really
little
remembering.
bit here. Yeah, there's no scene
It's
with
more
her
flashback.
and the... and what's his face? Is it Alex? What's the...
Alex. Yeah.
Is it Alex?
When she says that he wants her to get rid of the child she's become pregnant. That's her motivation for leaving, and also just, like, grabbing all the riches. Anyway, so that was cool. What did you think of the production design? Getting to actually visually realize these things.
I thought it was good.
Still
Like,
panels.
you mentioned getting teary-eyed. I was feeling very emotional. Like, when you see, like, the outside of the castle, like, with the three creatures all around.
Oh,
the
God.
dragon.
Yeah, the hippogriff and the...
So that was great. I thought it looked cool. It's, like, almost like... I hope they keep the money for some of that stuff, like, because if the CGI goes a little south, like, it could look like a video game CGI cutscene or something.
But it looked great.
But it looked good.
So far, it looked great.
That whole opening, like,
that swooping
through was cool.
Even Joe was watching it. He's not familiar with any of this. Whenever you see the bridge that's leading over to the palace and has the big stone hands holding it up, he's just like, wow, that looks amazing.
Yeah, that looked awesome.
Oh, this is great. This is the part where I actually got a little, like, teary, like, excited in a way.
Yep.
In that sequence, this is when, in the very beginning, the guy's going to Fonny Rig. He has the grimoire, but he nods off and he's asleep. He's standing on the bridge, and we see a pirate ship come underneath the bridge. Did you see who was on the ship?
No.
Martin Tenbones is there.
Oh, really? I think I gotta watch that again.
I had to go back and look at it again, but it's
Yeah.
Martin Tenbones. I forgot that that's coming so soon, but I was like, holy shit, they're just pulling in these characters.
That's cool.
So, like, you see
I gotta
other
look-
things.
I gotta do that again
You see
then.
Merv Pumpkinhead, obviously.
Yes.
You have,
well,
which
okay,
is
here's
great.
another complaint of mine.
Merv.
Yes, Merv Pumpkinhead.
Merv,
we haven't
okay,
heard
yeah.
Merv Pumpkinhead talk. I believe it
But
is
we know
Kevin
who it is.
Smith.
No, it's not Kevin Smith. No, it's Mark Hamill.
Oh, who's Kevin Smith then?
I don't know. He's.
I thought he was in it. Maybe he's not in it.
No, no. I think
for
it's,
some
it's
reason
Mark
I thought he was cast in this too.
sir.
But when you see this season or coming soon,
Yes.
Matthew speaks, like it totally takes me completely out of it. Patton Oswalt
does.
is great.
Love him.
Seems like a nice person, funny, whatever.
A genuine fan, which is great.
Yeah,
like he is
totally.
a genuine. Like I heard a story of him. I was listening to Neil Gaiman talk on a podcast.
Yeah, on
about this,
WTF.
and yeah. And he was saying that he had met Patton Oswalt before, but didn't realize this. But Patton stood in line for hours to get one of his books signed by Neil Gaiman, which is great. Like he's a true fan, but he's got such a distinctive voice. And I have such a long history of loving Patton, but like he's a comedian. And it doesn't really, in that like coming this season when they just do all the little vignettes, for some reason his voice actually seems like more forward in the sound
it's
mix.
like louder
So it makes
than
it
all
even
the
more
others.
jarring. Yeah, it was very weird.
It doesn't match
The rest
the
of the
rest
tone
of
and
it,
everything.
and
Yeah.
and I know exactly who he is. So when I hear his voice, I think
Yes.
of Patton Oswalt and not getting lost
Not
in this
Matthew.
world.
Yeah.
And I just wish that they went with a non-name
yes.
because he has such a distinct voice. But
distinct
he's
voice,
great,
yeah.
and if of course he
It's
should
still
do
gonna be
it.
fun. I love Matthew. It's one of my favorite characters in the book. I cannot wait to get to see Stephen Fry as Gilbert.
Yeah,
which
that's a
is
perfect casting.
maybe my favorite character
Yeah.
for some reason. I've always loved Fiddler's Green
Fiddler's
so
Green is
much. That's gonna be wonderful. I love that they dropped the Unity Kincaid stuff. That obviously that's in the book, but like to get to see where that's going to come later
Right.
is really great. Setting all these things up that as a casual viewer doesn't know this story, it'll be great to either read the book or go back and watch again and see like all these things are dropped in there. Really cool.
And the way he gets out is different. They changed that
Different,
too.
yes.
Right. So Alex
That was
is
an interesting moment. Yeah.
talking to him. He's in a wheelchair, and who's his boyfriend's name? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
It's a
Paul,
weird
I
relationship.
think.
He works
I think
for
it's
him,
Paul.
but they're together.
Yeah.
they break the circle with the
Yep.
wheelchair, and there's that moment when I wish I remembered the boyfriend's name.
Paul, I
He's
think.
Paul.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
he's also in the
Yeah.
comic. Turns
Yeah.
around and looks and sees that it's broken. And like my family and I were just like talking about this. Like
Yeah.
he like knows he's gonna get out.
Joe
Like,
pointed that out to me as well.
Right, it just
He's
sort of lets
he
it
kind of looked
happen.
at him, right? Yeah, exactly. He
Yeah,
did.
they added the look back.
He did.
But like they're so over it. Like they just want to be free of this, which was
Yes.
interesting. But the fact that it's him that knows it and not Alex was interesting.
Right.
But anyway, that
And I
was
did
cool.
love that sequence with the guards that go through the dream and all that happens. He grabs the sand.
Yes.
From there, it was so beautifully done. I mean, there are the things we've seen these in the trailer, but it's still fun to see it in context. These moments in the show that are directly stills from the book. So
Yeah, like
when
that
he's on
aerial
the
shot of
ground-
him on the ground.
on the ground is
Yeah,
the
that was
same.
very cool.
When he opens up the vortex into the dreaming is almost exactly the same. The same character pose. It's flipped in the other direction,
this
but
one?
it's almost
like that?
exactly the same, which is great. Yeah, there's just these moments that just feel fully realized in such a beautiful way. It's exciting to see. Now, again, I'm very interested to see what they're doing with the Corinthian, why he's so early in this, and why that choice as opposed to keeping it more true to the story from the book. But I have so much faith in Neil Gaiman. Finally, after 30-something years, getting to revisit this and do it. Did you listen to the audiobook version that came out a couple years ago?
I didn't.
Yeah, I listened to the part of the first one because it was like a free sample, and I just wasn't into it at all. Like that medium doesn't do it for me. The radio play sort of version didn't do it
You
for
need
me.
the visuals.
You need the visuals so much, and the fact that they're kind of able to. They've decided to not be slavishly devoted to being exactly the same, but let it be different because it's a different medium. Felt pretty good too. I'm very excited. Also, hey, here's our tie back to Doctor Who. Jenna Coleman coming up later as Joanna Constantine, which will be fun. So you got your little connection there to the Who universe.
Yes, who is a combination, right, of John Constantine and Joanna Constantine.
That's kind of the way that's been set up. But in that interview that we referenced, it sounded like we do go back to the French Revolution for Orpheus as well. So maybe it still is actually Joanna Constantine instead of ever being John, and she just lives longer. I don't know. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Hobgolding stuff. I'm excited for...
No, it's going to be good. And
it's
it's
gonna be
stuck
fun.
like the first episode matched
Yeah.
the first issue. Right?
And he's back in the dreaming. He's ready to...
Pretty much. I mean, they skip over her waking up. We don't see... Do we see Unity wake up?
No, I don't think we actually see that in this episode.
Right, where she's old.
We see her asleep, but we don't see her wake up, I don't
Well,
believe.
so she would be old, too.
She'd be very old.
Like, so that doesn't add up.
There's that 30-year difference does make things a little bit weirder. I don't know why they didn't just bring it forward in time
Right.
a little bit as well. Instead of being World War I, make it World War II. I guess, I don't know, the aristocracy and everything. I don't know. It was strange, but whatever. It's
Right,
fine.
'cause
It's-
she
it's-
has a
it's-
baby,
I'll go
like-
with it regardless. Right?
Did they show her pregnant?
No, they don't show any of that yet. So I'm assuming we'll get to that with spoilers with Desire.
Maybe
later
they just
happens
won't
there.
even pay any attention to the age. She'll just be old, and people like us
I mean,
will
I
be
think
like,
they're
she'll
just
be
letting that-
100 and...
They're letting that one line about them getting to live longer because of this do a lot of the work there, but she wasn't involved.
She
in
wasn't
that,
involved
so
in that, so
whatever.
that
It's gonna
doesn't
be
really
fun.
match.
I'm excited about it. It's going to be great.
It's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope that that.
Oh, we haven't even seen
John
D.
D.
Cain and
scene.
Abel yet. We haven't seen Goldie. We haven't seen
No.
Goldie. I love Goldie. Meep.
Yeah, like who? I don't even know who's playing Cain and Abel, so I have no idea. So I'm excited.
I've
to...
seen them, but I'm not familiar with the actors.
Okay.
But I'm looking forward to that too. How do you feel? I mean, this is not.
And all the DC stuff
pretty
is
sure I know
gone.
how you feel.
Right? So like, there's going to be no Arkham Asylum in the
Oh,
book.
really?
Like John D. Right escapes from
Yeah.
Arkham, and he's
his mother
talking to the
comes. That's where he's
Scarecrow. Right?
Yeah.
From what I
Yeah.
remember. So that's
Yeah,
I know
that's
I saw that. So that all of the DC connection has been removed.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why that is. I guess
Probably a
it's just rights
licensing thing,
Yeah.
and it gets too confusing with all the movies and everything, so it's just completely separate.
Yeah.
There wasn't much of a connection. I mean, there was like through Hellblazer and all of those.
It was tenuous
Type.
and like dictated to
It was
him
always
in a way,
weird,
so
like when all of
it
a
was
sudden you have these things in like, you know, Martian Manhunter is there. Like it always felt weird. Doom Patrol was like that
Right.
too, where you would have connections to, and it's like this is its own weird thing. Let it be its own
It doesn't-
weird thing.
Yeah, it didn't need to have any of that. Anyway, yeah, I'm very excited. Maybe we'll talk more about this when we do our
Yeah,
next
we'll just
review.
do every episode
Sure.
of the show, and then maybe we could. I don't know. Like should we have just cut this into 2?
I don't know. This is for you to figure out. We can
Maybe
do it in
we'll
real
do
time
that
right
next
here
time.
in
Like
this
we could
recording.
always have a regular show, and then you and I'll do it like this, and then we'll just make 2 episodes and release them.
If you want to do, obviously this is not for the show, but if you want to do, watch a couple of episodes and then do a mini podcast and drop that in the feed in
Right.
between reviews, I'm down for that
Whatever's
too. I just need
easier,
to.
man.
I just want to start watching them more.
I know
so-
my kids also like want to watch them, which is like a blessing and a curse
Yes, yeah.
because it's like,
Yeah,
well,
you
that
got
means
kids who are busy.
how long I gotta wait to watch the second one.
I've been waiting so long for it since it was announced
Yeah.
on Netflix. and
I
now
don't
it's
know
here. It's
how
like, I
they're
can't wait
doing
to watch it.
24 hours. Like that's so like this. I mean, I guess they're gonna cut out some stuff because some of the stuff is horrific.
Right,
really,
but they
like-
also are from the interviews, from that interview and from something else. I think it's going to be even more upsetting because he's leaning more into learning more about the characters that are involved in it. So you care about them more, and then all this stuff happens to them. It's going to be even worse. Like I love Donna in the comic, but then she was the only one that I really kind of cared about because she had sort of
Well, she had
That-
like a
that
loose
connection
connection to
to Foxglove and yeah,
right, but like you don't know that until later.
until later. So maybe
So
it was
how
on
would-
subsequent readings.
maybe they're gonna
it might have
change
been
the
subsequent
order.
readings that I came back to it. Yeah,
Right,
That I
of
was like,
things.
oh, okay. But yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting.
It's
There's all
gonna
of
be
that. The
crazy.
serial convention's gonna be great. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so much stuff coming.
I don't know how. There's some stuff in A Game of You as well, which I don't know how some of that is going to get tackled as far as like gender and things with spells that certain people aren't allowed to do the spell.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
All of that stuff things have changed since that came out. So I'll be curious.
Well,
to
it
see.
might actually be even more resonant now.
Yeah.
It could be very interesting. Yeah, Thessaly with all of that. That's great. Oh my god, this can be so good. Anyway, I'm going to sign off now and see if I can get Joe to watch some with me.
Okay.
So this is exciting.
Do it up.
All right, man.
All right, buddy.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks
you
everyone
for
listeners
listening,
for sticking
for the 3 or
through
so
it.
listeners.
And
who-
hey, this will come out, and you can let us know if you're into this.
Yeah.
Do you want this as a separate mini
do that.
episodes in the feed, or do you want us to do what we're doing and just tack them on the end of your Doctor Who review podcast?
Knowing that we have 3 weeks between Doctor Who reviews, I don't know if we're going to want to keep coming back and revisiting Sandman every 3 weeks. So let's see what happens. Bear that in mind. We might want to do it.
Yeah,
it might
but
be
they could
better
still
to
let us
do-
know, and then we
I know, let us know.
we could
Tell us.
release it before the 3 weeks.
Tell us.
I don't know. We'll have to figure it out too. Like in 3 weeks, you and I could watch all of them, and then we
Right.
can record all of
Do
it,
all of it.
and then we'll figure
Or
it.
we could do a
Everything's
couple
fine.
at a time.
Everything's
All right,
fine,
buddies.
Dan. All right.
Thank you
Peace.
everyone for listening.
All right.
Later.
See you guys. All right. I was not recording, so
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Give him 2 lips like roses and clover. Then tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Sandman, I'm so alone. Don't have nobody to call my own. Please turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Bum 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 bum. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
Where's my robot? You know?